Hey guys, Tim and Don Avery here. We're reading from Revelations 13, the beast that rises from the sea. So if you want to grab your Bibles, do that right now because we're in the middle of our Bible study in Revelation, the book of Revelation, and you want to do that. And we're going to start right now. So I'm going to read from chapter 13. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. On his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. And I'm going to stop there because I want to start breaking these verses down. And I know we had some notes here that we want to read from. And so, honey, I know you want to start talking about the first part here.
Yeah, so just kind of giving you a description, give you more of an appearance of what it looked like, more of a visual. So it's a beast that rises from the sea with 7 heads, 10 horns, 10 crowns. A lot of people have their opinion of what those 7 heads, 10 horns, 10 crowns are. I know for the sea, you were saying that some people think it's a sea of people.
Yeah, so like this beast will rise up out of the sea or rise up from amongst people, because a lot of times when we're talking about visions or dreams, to see means a people. Or a vast people, a vast amount of people. And so this beast, so we don't know who he is right now, but will rise up from the sea with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns, which also means the authority. He'll have control over countries, and so it'll be a rulership that he has heads underneath him that he'll rule over.
Authority and rule, kingdom rule. So presidencies, prime ministers, monarch, whatever. So also the appearance like a leopard, but with the feet of a bear, a mouth of a lion. So this imagery echoes Daniel 7's 4 beasts, combining them into one.
Yes. And so I think a lot of those beasts represented different countries or regions of the world. And so the combination of this beast is saying like I'll say it like this way, all the bad parts of those beasts from the past will be the culmination of this spirit of this antichrist rising up, meaning that he'll rise in his power and his authority, his fame, his influence. He'll continue to rise up until he's the head of all these countries and leaders and foreign ministries and all these other things.
Yeah.
So he'll be the head leader. He'll be made the main leader.
I'm reminded as you're saying that of familiar spirits. We're studying familiar spirits right now, and I think it's important to remember that these leaders have familiar spirits, just like you might know a familiar spirit. Like you might think that your dad comes to visit you. Trust me, it's not your dad. Your dad's, there's either heaven or hell. When their spirit goes, when they have passed away, they go on to another place. Don't let anybody lie to you, because what the enemy tries to do is he tries to convince you that they're a familiar spirit when in fact they're not. It's a demon just playing with your mind. And that's important to know because these leaders have been followed for years. Not only these leaders, but their ancestry. So these familiar spirits are basically the devil and his demons following these cues over and over for such a time as this, actually, because they know that they have very limited time here and they have a mission. So the power, the dragon, Satan, which we talked about in the last recording, which was for chapter 12. You might go back and watch that. Gives the beast its throne. He also gives the beast authority and great power. So he's been watching all of this. These familiar spirits, it's important to talk about this. And I know the Lord's having me bring this up for someone who's watching this, but just remember, he's been watching these leaders and what drives them. Yep. What drives them with power. It might be ego. It might be that they need the boys. It might be whatever. It might be the money that they can be bought. So just remember that. And then the wounded head. One of the beast's heads seems fatally wounded, but it's healed, which causes the world to marvel and worship, which I think is interesting because we were talking in 12 about the witnesses, or we were going back and we were talking about the 2 witnesses before. I think that was actually 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So
11.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting that now this one happens where he's wounded in the head.
Yeah, I think again, this is something that is very interesting. Remember, the enemy can only mimic or manipulate something that God has done. And so what's happening right here, because we have the dragon right now and we have this beast, right? So we have two So we're going to see if the enemy is setting up his false trinity, his anti-trinity, if you will, of believers. So you have
Yes.
dragon, which is what is going to be him as the God, and then you have this beast, that will be the representation of his trinity as Jesus Christ or antichrist in this setup. So as we read chapter 3, it says, then I saw one of his heads as if it was been mortally wounded, like we just talked about, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. Now, the reason why that is, in my opinion, is because it's a mimicry or mockery or a manipulation of what actually happened with Jesus Christ, because he died with mortal wounds and died and rose again. Because what we'll see is this wound is also going to be healed, and he's going to rise from the dead, so to speak, and people will marvel and start following and worshiping
Wow.
the deep in this devil, this antichrist.
And so I want to go ahead and read this from, let's see, from the Amplified version. So I'm going to actually share this with you guys on the screen so you can follow along. It says, and the dragon stood on the sandy shore of the sea. Then I saw a vicious beast coming out of the sea with 10 horns, 7 heads. His horns were 10 royal crowns, and on his head were blasphemous names. And the beast that I saw resembled a leopard. Let's read that. These are animals mentioned in Daniel 7, like we talked about. But his feet were like those of a bear. His mouth was like that of a lion. And the dragon gave him power and his throne and great authority. I think it's interesting that John's pointing out what he saw. I saw one of his heads, which seemed to have a fatal wound, but his fatal wound was healed, and the entire earth, not some of it, but the entire earth, mind you, that's who's left after the first rapture. That's your opinion, right? Followed after the beast in amazement. They fell down and worshiped the dragon because he gave his authority to the beast. And I'm thinking, as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking this is also probably a generation that watched the witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
They probably already have watched the 2 witnesses in chapter 11 go through the wounding, go through dying and rising again on the 3rd day. And then, so they're seeing this all over again. So I'm wondering if now they're being deceived,
Absolutely being deceived.
Absolutely. So,
I mean, why would you not worship somebody who rose from the dead?
Right. Especially after knowing, now you've learned about Jesus, especially after the rapture, you're like either hearing that it was aliens or whatever, but those that are actually listening to the gospel at this point, because they're getting that clarification, then they see the witnesses, and now this happens. And I'm just trying to think through what's going through their minds. My goodness. And so they fall down, they worship the dragon because he gave authority to the beast. They also worship the beast, saying, who is like as great as the beast, and who is able to wage war against him? So they're actually proclaiming this, which is horrible.
Which is crazy, because the reason why they're saying that is because who can make war for somebody who rose from the dead? Like,
right,
nobody can kill him. So that's what they're thinking. So if he can't be killed, who's going to make war with him?
And the beast was given a mouth, which is ironic right now, because you're seeing so many areas where the prophetic is being attacked even right now. So the power of speech, he's given a mouth uttering great things and arrogant and blasphemous words. And he was given freedom and authority to act and to do as he pleased for 42 months, 3.5 years. It says this is the last half of the tribulation.
Let's look at that, Daniel 7:8. Can you click on that?
Yes. After he opens his mouth to speak blasphemies, abusive speech and slander against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that's us, the church, and those who live in heaven, which have already been raptured up, might I add. So if you go to Daniel 7:8, which I will do, when we go to Daniel 7:8, it says, while I was considering the horns, behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, and 3 of the first horns were pulled up by the roots before it. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth boasting of great things. And this points out that this is the Antichrist. So while I was considering the horns, behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one. And I know we've watched other great teachings from like Perry Stone and he was saying which nation he believed was the little horn. So yeah, this is interesting.
So this beast is giving a mouth, which is speaking great things that are and blasphemies, and he has given authority to continue for 3.5 years. So he's given authority, and he can say whatever he wants to say, some crazy blasphemous things against the Lord God Almighty. And so he's just saying things, blaspheming God and all the stuff, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. And it was granted him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So this is the saints that are currently on the earth, those who are on the earth and that you're following Christ and his ways. Maybe you've encountered maybe one of the 144,000 that are running around there trying to proclaim Jesus as a Messiah, because the two witnesses are gone. We know that. And so we have the 144,000 and the church that's growing, the post-rapture church that is growing there. And it was granted to make war with the saints to overcome them. And authority was given to him, in verse 7 says, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. So he has a power and authority over every tribe, tongue, and nation that's on the earth right here, and all who dwell on the earth and who worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain on the foundation of the world. I'll read that again. So it was granted to him to make war against the saints and to overcome them. The authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience of the faith of the saints.
So I'm going to read it from the Amplified Version.
Yes.
He who was also permitted to wage war against the saints, God's people, and to overcome them, they're actually given over to him, and authority and power over every tribe and people and language and nation. And all the inhabitants of the earth will fall down and worship him, everyone whose name has not been written since the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is destined for captivity, he will go into captivity. Pay attention to that, all that are playing with Wicca and witchcraft right now. You don't want to mess with that, because this is very real. This is not a game. And so remember this. If anyone is destined for captivity, he will go into captivity. If anyone kills with a sword, he must be killed with a sword. This isn't a maybe. Here is the call for the patient endurance and the faithfulness of the saints, which is seen in the response of God's people to difficult times. In Jeremiah 15:2, it talks about that.
Yeah.
I also want to point out what it says on the TPT, which is, if you go back to it, the beast was given the authority to wage war against the holy believers and conquered them in some manuscripts. And he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Everyone on the earth will worship the wild beast. That's just crazy. Those whose names have not been written from the foundation. So these are already basically predestined, is what I'm getting from this, right? The Greek word for foundation also means overthrow, cast down, which would have been a reference to the fall of man, of the world in the book of the Lamb's life who was slain. If anyone has been given ears to hear, he better listen. For the one who leads others into captivity he goes. The one who kills others by the sword he will be put to death. And that says this is one of the more difficult verses in Revelation to translate and interpret, with many variations found in differing manuscripts. It's also could be translated that if anyone is destined for captivity, into captivity he goes. If anyone is destined to be killed by the sword he will be killed. This is a call for endurance and faithfulness of the holy believers.
Yeah, very interesting. This is a very interesting time, so
I want to point out, while he's pulling that up, in Revelation, if you go to the Bible.com or Bible.com, you'll pull up the YouVersion app. So if you have the YouVersion app on your phone, but you want to look at it on your desktop in a bigger font, then you can pull up Bible.com, and then you can actually, once you pull it up, you can actually click on parallel. See, I'm exiting parallel mode. So it's really helpful if you want to have time to study in different translations, because then you can pull it up here, click on this little symbol here, parallel, and then pick out the second version. You see there's areas here. So you can pick out the second version that you want to pick out. So whatever that might be, like for example, I'll go down to the Jubilee Bible, and then it will show a different translation, so you can study those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I think going back to this, it's like this is a warning and maybe an encouragement that at this point, the last line there says, "Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." If you're in this time zone, or in this time period, I should say,
It's tough.
it's going to be tough, but you also need to have patience and even more so lean on the promises of God. Holy Spirit's not there, but you still have the promises of God that you need to be in this book. You need to rest on His word and trust Him that these things will come to pass. And so if you've been held captive, you're going to be held captive.
Who do you think these are that are left? The 144,000?
Well, the 144,000 people are protected. They can't be harmed and touched because they're sealed of God. None of the things,
Man, the stuff they're seeing.
but the people who are coming to Christ, this is the time of patience for them is what I'm talking about. Like these people who are seeing all this stuff because they're being strongly persecuted by Satan himself, or by the Antichrist himself, or whatever powers he has an authority over to make people, persecute them particularly. So what I'm saying is like, yes, you need to have your heart and mind locked into the word of God, knowing that what will come to pass will come to pass, and just have patience with that. So let's move on. You got something else to add there?
It's just I'm trying to figure this one out because it says to have patience, but it also says right before that their names are not written in the book of life. So I mean, like I'm thinking kind of what everybody else is scared to say, but I'm thinking like, so why would they need to have patience if they're not even going to get to
Well,
go?
if you read that whole verse in context, so let's go back to that part particularly just to get some clarity here.
Yes. All the inhabitants of the earth will fall down and worship him. Everyone, it doesn't say some, it says everyone whose name, everyone whose name has not been written.
Yeah, they will fall down and worship him.
So there are some that could have already been written.
Right. If your name's not written in the book of life,
That's good to know.
Yeah. So it's just a continuation of what it's saying. It says, if anyone, okay, let's read again. All the inhabitants of the earth will fall down and worship him. Everyone whose names has not been written since the foundation of the world. These are the ones that will fall down and worship him, just to reiterate that. Whose name are not written in the Lamb Book of Life. Those are the ones who will fall down and worship Satan, or worship this beast. Okay. So if anyone has an ear, let him hear. Anybody who's destined for captivity, he will go into captivity. If anyone kills with the sword, he must be killed with the sword. Okay. So here's a call for patience, endurance, and the faithfulness of the saints, which is seen in the response of God's people to difficult times. Okay. So yes. Okay. All right. So verse 11, then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth. Okay. So now we have another beast arising. So right now we have the dragon and we have the Antichrist beast. So now we have another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. Okay. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Okay, so it's like so now the third part of their evil trinity has been complete, because they've got this prophet or prophetic person that's saying, worship the one the first beast who was mortally wounded. Okay.
Right.
This beast performs great signs, so that even he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Now, what does that sound like? Right. That's like what we saw earlier about the two witnesses. They saw those two witnesses bring down fire from heaven. And it's analogous to Ezekiel doing that, and Elijah doing that. And so like I said, the enemy can't create anything new. So he has to manipulate and coerce what's already been done. And so now he's using what will get the attention of men by manipulating that. And so he performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So if you're running around as these post-rapture saints and you're falling, don't fall for this, obviously, because this is the Antichrist and his anti-trinity. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs, which was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. So now we have an image being made of the first beast.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Did you? I know you wanted to kind of
Well, and it says,
Zero.
and it was given unto him to endue the image of the beast with spirit, so that the image of the beast should speak, and he shall cause those that do not worship. I wonder if it's like a hologram or an AI
I mean,
generated.
well, for sure. I mean, technology is ridiculous, you know. So, I mean, does the enemy will have hold of this technology? Absolutely. Will it be a statue that's robotic, has AI technology built into it? Yes. Hear me when I say this. I'm not saying AI is wrong or evil.
No,
What I am saying is that it can be manipulated and coerced to do some crazy stuff. So
it's just like money. It's only
Yeah.
going to do what the holder is using it for.
Right.
So it's actually just that way. But I also think that it's interesting because it says, and he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor. So it doesn't matter your status, free and slaves, to receive the mark on their hand. He caused them all.
So I mean, you gotta understand the mentality
your foreheads.
of what these people are witnessing here, right? You've got a guy that's been shot or mortally wounded in the head and rose from the dead, right? You've got now another beast that's making all these miracle signs and wonders coming from heaven, you know. So you've got this powerhouse of evil doers on the earth, and they've got this image that they've created that can speak and talk and do things. And now they're causing these people to take a mark. And if they don't, they'll lose their own heads. And they won't be able to buy or sell or do anything if they don't have this mark of the beast. So these people are being coerced and manipulated and forced to do things they probably would not normally have done. Now, is all this technology already in place? Yes. All this technology, you know, a mark of the beast, it could be this technology that's continually to evolve where they get this little chip in their hand and they can scan it and you know it controls their life. They can open up doors, they can have their credit card attached to it, all their information attached to it. So all this technology already exists, but you know these people will be forced to take this. Am I saying if you have it now that you've already taken the mark of the beast? No, I think that these people will be forced to take it in the name of this antichrist or this beast that's or this man that has rose up to prominence.
Right. So, and it also, just to finish this off in 17, and that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let the person who has enough insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the imperfect number of man, and his number is 666. So I just think that's interesting. It says this is not actually 3 6s or the equivalent in Greek or Hebrew letters as commonly represented. Such a combination would not be used. And if it were, the sum would then only be 18. Because in alphabet-based numbering systems like the ancient Hebrew and Greek, places value are not used in tens, 100s, etc. But the letters are treated more like Roman numerals. What John's most likely indicating is that the letters of the name will add up to 666. The best Greek manuscripts have the numbers spelled out, and there would be many different combinations of letters that would do so. Determining the values of the individual letters is another matter. John probably assumed that the name would be Hebrew or Greek, and in Hebrew, vowels for the most part are not represented as letters. Further complications arise when names from other nationalities are considered and are converted for evaluation. For example, at various times it has been argued that the name Nero Caesar adds up to 666 when translated to Hebrew. So yeah, I mean, but in the Talmud, the name is translated NYRWN, which is total 686. Also, the original Latin name form, the second N is converted directly to Hebrew and adds up to 616. So I think it's just pointing out that a few ancient manuscripts go by the alphabet, of course, in Hebrew, which we've seen before.
Yeah.
Where they do add those up and treat them as numbers. So that's interesting. That's true. I think for years I've heard that it's going to be 666, but of course the American numeric system would have been what John is talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's still left up to debate about what this number or who this person is, but it says here is wisdom. It's saying it can be calculated because the Bible says so. Here's wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. So obviously you're gonna have
the time frame though.
Well, I don't know.
I wonder if that's like 666 years. I wonder if that's like 666 days. I wonder if it's
Well,
a
it says
time
in
frame.
verse 17, it says, and no one may buy or sell except for have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here's wisdom. So it's saying it's referencing back to it's a number or it's a name of this. So you could calculate it. So it may be for those to be revealed if you're living in this time and season. If you're taking a mark, you probably can really quickly calculate what this number actually means if you have wisdom. So maybe that's for these saints to figure out later. So there's that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, stick with us. So you got anything else to go?
No, that's it. We're going to be back next week and we will be going over chapter 14, which I hope you guys have been enjoying this. Let us know if you've been getting something out of it. Did you know that when you read Revelation, you get a blessing each time? So we're going to go over chapter 14 next week and we will be picking back up there. Let us know what you get in the meantime and we look forward to hearing from you guys.
All right, guys. Bye.